Tammy. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tammy. I have been with the Million Mom Movement for a few months now. I am passionate about the Million Mom Movement because I myself was sick for about 20 years. I was on over 20 different medications. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition when I was 18 years old, and that led to a lifetime of one diagnosis after another, one medication after another, and a vicious cycle of just never getting better. I was in the doctors, just begging for a magic pill. I just wanted something to make me better. And unfortunately, I just didn't know any better. And the way our system is set up with doctors, medication is just a Band-Aid. And I had to hit rock bottom until I went searching out into the universe for something different. And I had never heard about the word glyphosate. Not one doctor in 20 years said, maybe you should stop eating food with glyphosate on it. So when I learned about glyphosate, I was a little angry. I was kind of furious, like, why didn't anyone in 20 years tell me about this, So when I started, feeling better, I couldn't go back to doing hair. By the age of 38, I was on disability. I mean, I was so far gone, you guys. And so when I started feeling better, when I found this nutrition, I wanted to climb to the top of the highest mountain and shout and tell everyone and warn everyone about the dangers lurking in our food. So I'm very passionate about this. I got some black trash bags and I threw away everything in my kitchen because I thought, if this happened to me, it can happen to my children. So I started taking the preventative route. Like, we have to really be advocates here. So, yeah, I'm super passionate. I've been following Million Mom Movement for 3 years now, and so much education and free knowledge here. So, now it's my turn to pay it forward and to give back and to help educate other people about this topic. So I am joined today with my fellow council members, Naeva and Sherry and Allison. I love these ladies. They're absolutely amazing. They have the most big, beautiful brains and hearts. So today's topic is glyphosate, and we're going to be talking about the effects on the environment, food, and health. So I would like to have somebody read our Million Mom Movement pledge. So we're looking for 1,000 people in 100 communities committed to spread the word about the health and the well-being and the economic opportunity with organic nutrition. So if you guys haven't shared this with your friends yet, I encourage you to please do so. If you guys want to leave me a little comment in the box here, who shared the Million Mom Movement with you and how long you've been following Million Mom Movement, I'd love to know. And who would like to read our pledge today? Let's see. I'm seeing Chris is at the top of my box. Chris, would you like to share the Million Mom Movement pledge? Because we are a movement of many, not just moms. It's men. Everybody is welcome here.
Absolutely. All right. I pledge to defend the health of myself and my family. I pledge to choose organic foods that are minimally processed and free of man-made ingredients. I pledge to read labels and educate myself on all aspects of clean living. I understand that my actions today will positively impact the health and environment of future generations. I am committed to sharing this movement of pain. I am the Million Mile Movement.
Thank you so much, Chris. Some of our friends couldn't hear you, but you guys, you see the pledge right here. So he's reading right here, the pledge. And, we know you're passionate about this if you're here with us. So thank you so much for being here, Chris. I don't know if you want to take a moment and try to, maybe we could hear you better a little bit. Do you want to share what this pledge means to you?
Absolutely. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
I got the professional thing set up. It was up above me. So
There
yeah,
you go.
I joined I joined Purium about 4 years ago, and my son passed away about 5 years ago. So this movement has really just helped me figure out for my next children what to do better. So yeah, this thing is just a great community. So I appreciate everybody here.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. I'm so sorry for your loss. Yeah, that's, our children are really suffering. It's so sad to see what's going on in the world, and cancer is on the rise, and there's so many diseases and disorders out there, and to know that our food is harming our children, it's infuriating. And so, that passion, take that and run with it, and you're going to help so many people. Thank you so much for being here with us.
I appreciate you. Thank you all.
Absolutely. I would like to pass it to my fellow council member, Sherry, and she is going to share some in the news with us from the EWG and some really great information.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Tammy. Sorry, I just got a little choked up listening to Chris. Chris, thanks for reading the pledge for us today, and I'm really sorry for your loss. Lost my nephew, who was 3 years old at the time, just a couple of years back as well. So I understand, and this is why we do what we do, right? And this is why we move it forward, and this is why we share this information. So with that, I'm gonna go. All right. So we have start with, okay. So we have 2 articles today to share, both about glyphosate, of course. There's so much to be said about glyphosate. It actually, we were not at a loss for articles when we were searching for the right ones to share today. There is a lot of information out there, and us as the Million Mile Movement have gathered many of these over the years, because this is, of course, at the heart of our movement, right, is creating the awareness around glyphosate toxicity. So this one is from the EWG, and it talks about, so it says the CDC finds toxic weed killer in 87% of children tested. So about 87% of 650 children tested had detectable levels of the toxic herbicide glyphosate in their urine, according to a new analysis by the Center of Disease Control and Prevention. So food is the main route of exposure to glyphosate for children aged 18 and under, according to the CDC researchers. So glyphosate is the active ingredient in Bayer's Roundup, the weed killer most widely used by conventional agriculture around the world. The Federal Health Agency also tested more than 1,600 urine samples of adults and found 80% had detectable levels of the same weed killer. The samples were collected between 2013 and 2014, and the CDC regularly tests human biomonitoring samples for a number of contaminants and diseases. Now, glyphosate is the most widely used herbicide in the country, yet until now we had very little data on exposure. Children in the US are regularly exposed to this cancer-causing weed killer through the food that they eat virtually every single day. The Environmental Protection Agency should take concrete regulatory action to dramatically lower the levels of glyphosate in the food supply and protect children's health. So in March of 2015, the International Agency of Research on Cancer classified glyphosate as probably carcinogenic to humans. The 17-member panel of scientists reviewed almost 1,000 peer-reviewed published studies on the potential carcinogenicity of the chemical. And then in April of 2019, the US Agency of Toxic Substances and Disease Registry released an analysis that gave weight to studies connecting glyphosate and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and recommended monitoring children's exposure to this toxic weed killer. The EPA has thus far has ignored many of those studies and conclusions by the IARC. Instead, the agency has repeatedly sided with the pesticide industry and downplayed the risk of glyphosate exposure to human health. In July 2020, the EWG released an analysis of laboratory testing that shows glyphosate in more than 90% of non-organic hummus and chickpea samples. Previous tests by the EWG and other public interest groups have found glyphosate in popular breakfast cereals and other foods American adults and children love to eat. We know this because we've gone over many of these during our Million Mile Movement calls. The presence of glyphosate in food is a result of the herbicide being used as a pre-harvest drying agent or desiccant, so crops like oats can be harvested sooner than if the plant were allowed to die naturally. This allows easier harvesting, but also increases the likelihood that the pesticide makes it into our food. And we also know that that pesticide is also, or that herbicide, I should say, is also killing the soil. In 2018, EWG and a number of food companies petitioned the EPA to sharply limit glyphosate residues allowed on oats and ban its use as a desiccant. The EPA has ignored those calls, allowing US farmers to continue using the crop chemical at harvest. And glyphosate was invented and marketed by Monsanto until 2018, when Bayer bought the company for $63 billion. It inherited liability for about 125,000 claims by people who say the weed killing products caused their cancer. So this, I felt the need to not skip over any of it and really just read it through, because there was so much important information there, so many statistics and testings and opinions from experts in the field. So this is our first article. The second one is similar. However, it talks more about the biomarkers, and it talks about oxidative stress and how that's linked with glyphosate. So people exposed to weed killer chemical have cancer biomarkers in urine. So new research by top US government scientists has found that people exposed to the widely used weed killer chemical glyphosate have biomarkers in their urine linked to the development of cancer and other diseases. The study published last week in the Journal of the National Cancer Institute measured glyphosate levels in the urine of farmers and other study participants and determined that high levels of the pesticide were associated with signs of a reaction in the body called oxidative stress, a condition that causes damage to DNA. And we know that oxidative stress is linked to cancer, right? Any type of damage done to the DNA. Oxidative stress is considered by health experts as a key characteristic of carcinogens. So the author of the paper, 10 scientists with the National Institute of Health and 2 from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, which is the CDC, concluded that their study contributes to the weight of evidence supporting an association between glyphosate exposure and oxidative stress in humans. They also noted that accumulating evidence supports the role of oxidative stress in the pathogenesis of hematologic cancer, such as lymphoma, myeloma, and leukemia. Oxidative stress is not something that you want to have, and this study increases our understanding that glyphosate has the potential to cause cancer. I'm going to skip down a little bit. It's a lot. It's very repetitive. Glyphosate is the most heavily applied herbicide in history, both in the US and globally. One of the best known glyphosate-based products in Monsanto's Roundup killer, a weed killer. Ironic, I said killer. Roundup has been used by farmers as well as consumers for more than 40 years. Officials with Monsanto and its German owner Bayer AG have always assured the public and regulators that exposure to the weed killer does not pose a threat to human health. There's another area here that I really wanted to make sure that I shared in this article. Okay, pregnancy worries. I believe it was here. Debate over the safety of glyphosate has persisted for years and intensified after the International Agency for Research on Cancer, a unit of the World Health Organization, declared it probably carcinogenic to humans in 2015. The new findings are not the first to look at glyphosate and oxidative stress. Animal studies and cellular studies have also found an association, but there are only a handful of such studies in humans. The NIH study is the largest investigation to date of the relationship between glyphosate exposure and oxidative stress markers. Scientists say it is important to examine substances that may cause oxidative stress because a large body of scientific evidence suggests that long-term oxidative stress contributes to the development not only of cancer, but also a range of chronic conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, and reproductive problems, including male infertility. So one prior human study related to glyphosate and oxidative stress was published last year by a team of scientists specializing in public and environmental health at several US universities. Those researchers analyzed 347 urine samples collected from pregnant women, finding that higher levels of oxidative stress biomarkers were seen in the samples containing concentrations of aminomethyl, a phosphonic acid, AMPA would have been easier to say, a substance created when glyphosate breaks down in soil and water. The author of that paper noted that glyphosate and AMPA have been shown to disrupt hormone function and warned that more research was needed due to glyphosate's persistence within the environment and potential for adverse effects during pregnancy. So I'm going to leave it there in terms of this article, but there is so much more here. There's also some links that you can click on. So we'll share these in the chat. But in terms of pregnancy, we also know that glyphosate can transfer, right, from mom to baby. And I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about that during this presentation today, but the fact that this is why even children are being born with gut microbiomes that are not optimal. So I'm going to pass it back over to Tammy. Option. Back to you, Tammy.
Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, this is something I didn't know about. You don't know that glyphosate is in Cheerios and it scores one of the highest. It's one of the ones that scores highest in glyphosate. And that's one of the first foods that we're giving to toddlers. And, when you learn about these things, it's like, wow, man, we were really fooled. And you really think the food out there is safe. And it's not. So that's why I'm so passionate about, being proactive instead of reactive. And it's so much better to really, educate yourself on these things and go through your pantry, go over to your loved ones' houses and go through their pantries and really, teach them about the dangers that are lurking in our food. So what are we sharing next, Sherry? What are we sharing next? Or do we have another article to share?
Nope, no, those were the two articles for in the news.
Okay. Do we want to open it up to the field to see if anyone has any stories on the glyphosate to share, or we have a lot of extra time?
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I don't know, Allison, do you want to start? I know that Allison has, well, I mean, I could start and just open it up with my story about glyphosate, and then I know that Allison has one too, and then we can open it up
Yeah.
to everybody else. Okay. So for myself, the glyphosate aspect also wasn't something like Tammy, you had mentioned that you hadn't heard anything about, right? No doctor had ever mentioned it to you. While there is a test that can be done, you can ask to have, I don't know if it's not widely available everywhere yet, but I know that in some areas you can get this test done where they will test to see the levels of glyphosate within your body. And it's so amazing to me that this test exists and yet you don't usually hear it. It's not on offer, right? It's not like part of your regular yearly blood test, which I argue it should be. And so I myself had never heard much about glyphosate. I'd kind of heard the word go by over the years, and I thought it was something that people maybe in the US, hi people in the US, but I thought it was more of a US issue. I didn't think it was such a big problem here in Canada. I wasn't so concerned about it. And again, during my studies to become a holistic nutrition and health coach, it also was really lightly touched upon, and it was grouped with all the other chemicals, all the other toxins that we're exposed to, but no focus was given to glyphosate. And it was only after my son's diagnosis with type 1 diabetes, and I went into research because, again, medicine didn't have answers for me. And I went back into research, and this is when I started to uncover the gut microbiome and its role in autoimmune conditions like type 1 diabetes. And that led me to glyphosate. And it was during a conversation with Tass, who introduced me to Purium and brought me into the community, that I really started to have a clearer path as to where I was headed, what information I was looking for, and I was blown away by what I started to learn about how glyphosate does play a role. First, of course, in the damaging of the gut microbiome in the first place, which makes a person more vulnerable to lots of different types of dis-ease within the body. And then to understand that my gut microbiome was my son's first gut microbiome, that I passed that along to him, and knowing that mine was far from optimal. I had been on antibiotics throughout my childhood. I was always sick. I had asthma, so I was on steroids, like preventatively for my asthma for years at a time, allergy injections, like all of the things, I was, and processed foods and all the things alike. So I knew that my gut microbiome was far from optimal, and understanding that that was passed over to my son. And so my son was born already with this sort of deficit in terms of how he was coming into the world. You think, okay, brand new baby, brand new body, like the organs, everything's optimal. And, now we get to kind of just foster that and hope that we have the information to keep it that way. Little do we know that most of the time that's not the case. They're not coming into this world, with optimal health. And so right away, we need to understand this so that we can be proactive. And so understanding how that played a role in my son's diagnosis, because he had also, long before he was diagnosed with diabetes, he was extremely anxious. And that too, I now understand the link to the gut. But then understanding furthermore how glyphosate toxicity plays a role, right, in damaging the gut in the first place. A large role, I would say the largest role. And also now it's still something that I need to be aware of because it really does affect insulin. So it is very much linked to insulin resistance. And so that makes it that much harder for somebody who is being exposed to glyphosate, who has glyphosate in their system, to then control their diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, doesn't matter. And so it just creates another level of challenge for people dealing with a diagnosis like this to ensure that they're detoxifying as much of it out, that they're avoiding as much of it as possible. We know we can't avoid it all. It's everywhere, not just in our food system. But it's in our air, it's in our water, it's in the grass, it is everywhere. And so we need to be as proactive as we can be. And that was the message that I received very loud and clearly in terms of my son. And now that I have this knowledge, it's not to feel bad about the things I didn't know when I didn't know it. It's about taking that information now moving forward and not only make the best decisions possible for my son's health, but share that. Like, I feel a very, very big obligation, a big responsibility and to share what I've learned, because if I didn't know it, I know so many other people didn't as well. And this is really important. So that's a
Yeah.
little bit of my story on glyphosate toxicity.
That's so true. You know, we just don't know what we don't know until we know, right? It's not something that's really commonly talked about. And the thing that I love about this company is we don't just talk about problems, we talk about solutions. And we are the only company in the world that has a product that has been clinically proven to remove glyphosate from the body in just as little as 6 weeks. It reduces your C-reactive protein level by 75%. And it has a gold seal of approval from the Detox Project. So if you guys haven't heard about Biomedic yet, you know, when I started introducing this to my children, I have 3 kids now. Their ages right now are 18, 17, and 7. You know, 3 years ago when I started this lifestyle and started introducing the Biomedic into them, my youngest was on the spectrum and he was in speech therapy, he was in occupational therapy, he was stuttering, he wasn't making eye contact, and none of the therapists talked about diet. They didn't talk about, you know, cleaning up, getting the dyes out of his diet and feeding him better and cleaning up the gut, you know, for the gut-brain connection to really work properly. And when I started doing these things while he was in therapy, and you know, his stuttering stopped and he started making eye contact, and I had these therapists, these trained professionals asking me what I was doing at home. You know, they just saw him starting to light up. And now 3 years later, you know, he doesn't have the tics, he's speaking fabulously, he's confident, he's thriving. And you know, my oldest was really suffering from anxiety and depression, and she was cutting herself and she had all types of issues going on. And you know, she is just lighting up now. All of her issues are gone. My children, they're doing a fruit feast with me right now. They are super passionate about their nutrition. My middle son, the 17-year-old, he had ADHD, you know, really struggled in school, and my kids are all thriving now. As soon as we started cleaning up the guts, it's amazing to really watch your kids start to light up and to become so passionate because they feel it. They feel the difference. They were really sick. You know, growing up, we were always in the doctor's office. They had the common cold all the time. And I'll tell you what, you guys, the common cold does not have to be so common. When you know, really build up your immune system and you're using food as medicine, and it's just really incredible to just feel good all the time. So I know Allison wanted to share her experience with this as well. So I'd like to pass it over to Allison.
Thank you. Amazing shares so far. And I just relate with so much because yeah, when Taz is who introduced this to me, she mentioned the word glyphosate to me. She's asked me if I had ever heard of glyphosate because she was seeing some of my posts where I was dealing with eczema and mental health issues. And I didn't even know they were related. And I also didn't know they were all really rooted in the gut. I had known about the gut-brain connection, but really I thought I was eating as well as I could have. So I didn't think, I thought this must be genetic or I'm something different because I was seemingly I thought I was eating so well, and like there's so many levels to things, right? We just don't know. I didn't know about organic necessarily. So I was eating the right foods, and I was juicing, and I was, making smoothies and whatever. I thought I was doing the best I possibly could. And there was a huge missing piece where I just didn't, it was a blind sight because I wasn't prioritizing all organic, and I didn't even know why. Really, I kind of thought the science out there was saying it's as safe as table salt, which we know is also not safe. But like these kind of expressions, it's totally safe. And so it had to be through experiencing it that I got to understand the difference. And when Taz first mentioned this to me, I kind of thought, oh, what is this word? She's kind of making it up or something, because I had never heard of it. But then I went down the rabbit hole as well, and really started to see the lawsuits and the cover-ups and the corruption in that it's owned by pharmaceuticals, and that the whole end game is to get us hooked on medications. There's profit to be had. It's not about, and so when I experienced the ultimate lifestyle transformation for the first time, which includes the biomedic, which is the glyphosate detox, that's when I knew for sure this is real, because the symptoms that I had, which I was struggling my whole life with, which is eczema and mental health and IBS, they started to go away. And that was the only thing I changed, was, adding this ultimate lifestyle transformation to what I was doing, which was the daily, taking that biomedic. And I noticed the difference when we went to live in Belize in 2020, and they don't ship there. So we did run out for the last month. We ran out of our superfoods, our biomedic especially. And I thought, oh, it's okay. We're living off of fruit and healthy food. It should be okay for a month. Well, when we didn't have our biomedic, and even though we were eating healthy, or, we're still exposed to glyphosate everywhere. And my eczema came back, Jared's allergies came back, my daughter's eczema came back. And it was just incredible to get to see what happens when we allow our body to go back to the way things were, because I realized I'm going to be taking this biomedic every single day for the rest of my life, because there's no way that this is all we can do. We can take this, we can't avoid it completely. And yes, we can take action. And that's what this actual group is about activism. I remember a few years back when I joined the Million Mom movement, we were writing letters to Cheerios and to the cereal companies. And I loved that activism. But truly, at the end of the day, to protect ourselves, we have to just do what we can. And this is one of the things that we can do. And it's easy. And of course, I get to give it to my kids every day. My husband as well does it every day. And we notice huge difference in Jared, who, he was just adding this in. He didn't really change his lifestyle much, just adding the biomedic in and the green juice and, and a few of the other things. He was able to, he has no more allergies or asthma anymore. So there was no restriction required. It was really just adding this in that made all the difference. And actually what I love is the clinical studies are done on the participants did not change their diet. They just added one biomedic in for 6 weeks and got to see those results. So that's what I love, is that this can meet everyone where they're at. And then, you do start to make better choices once you feel the difference in your body. And so it encourages you, of course. Now we do eat organic as much as possible, but we can't be perfect, but we do as much as possible. Because I know, we have to be eating whole food in its organic form to be able to get as much out of it as possible and to actually, get good stuff. So it makes it, the Purium lifestyle, of course, makes it so easy to get organic every day, to be flooding our cells, and to be maintaining that level of detox every single day to maintain our, our health in the best that we can. And it's been amazing. 6 years in, we can just say that I know we'll be lifers here, because life is so much better with this in, and that we're so grateful. We're so grateful for who introduced this to us. And that's why we have to be loud, because I would have not known about this today, and we would have all still been on medications and suffering. So thank you. Thank you so much.
It's such a powerful share, Allison. You and Jared are such an inspiration. I've been following you guys from the beginning, and Appreciate you guys so much. I feel you, the biomedic, we buy it by the 4-pack now because we're all taking it, you know. It's something that we're never gonna stop taking either, you know, and the biomedic is also in the Epigenius family, if you guys are not aware. So you can get one full serving of the biomedic in a serving of the Epigenius family. And we also have the biomedic in a cat formula and a dog formula, the Epigenius dogs and the Epigenius cats. You know, when your animals are out there at the park, and they're walking around, those parks are sprayed with glyphosate, even in your backyard, the rainwater, you know, it's in our environment. It's been sprayed for so many years now that it's in there, and it's going to take a long time to get it out, you know, for us to regenerate the environment. And they're saying that we have about 60 years of topsoil left. You know, I love the documentary, Kiss the Ground, and then there's a new one out, Common Ground, and that dives in a little deeper. So if you guys want some information and education on glyphosate, those are great documentaries to watch. And somebody put in the chat another one, The Poisoning. I haven't watched that one yet, so I'm excited to see that. And I know Naeva would like to share as well. Naeva, would you like to jump on?
Absolutely. I love this subject. It's something that I've been really passionate about for a long time, especially growing up in Hawaii. I don't know how many of you know this, but to make a GMO seed crop, it takes 7 generations. And in Hawaii, because we don't have the same seasons as everywhere else, you can do those hybrid seed crops in under 2 years. They can do 7 generations of seed crops in under 2 years. And so a lot of the Hawaiian homelands here have been leased out to these agrochemical companies for super inexpensive, like I think it's like $99 a year leases per acre. And none of that money is going back to the native people, but what it's doing is it's destroying the soil, it's destroying the water, the environment, the air. And it's really detrimental to the people because they are spraying this near schools, near neighborhoods. And it's actually right on the island where I live, and the neighborhood where I live is where Monsanto had their headquarters for many, many years before they were basically kicked off the island, and banned from spraying here. But they still have subsidiary companies that are here still practicing their seed crops. And so we have cornfields just a few miles from us where they spray without notice. And they spray often and more than anywhere else because they're creating this hybridized seed crop. They're making these seeds be able to grow even with this poison sprayed on them, but it kills all living organisms. So what does that do to us is that we are drinking water or breathing in the air or eating the food that's been sprayed with this chemical, and it's deteriorating our microbiome. It's killing the living organisms within our body that help us to break down and digest our foods. And this is why it's so detrimental and why it causes cancer and so many other issues, is because it starts at the gut as the root cause. And so by repairing our gut, we can really start to make a difference. And like Tammy mentioned earlier, Biomedic is proven to remove glyphosate by 74.5% in the first 6 weeks. So if you continue on our 90-day protocol, then it's to say that during those 90 days, hopefully you can remove all of the glyphosate from your body. That Biomedic also helps to repair your gut microvilli, so it can really help to repair your gut so you can start to digest better and reduce any symptoms that you might be having, and also be able to digest your food and absorb your nutrients that much better, which is so important. And so this chemical is inundated everywhere. It's all across the US. It's in 85 to 90% of our foods out there. And it's really detrimental. They even spray it on organic foods, like what was mentioned earlier when Sherry was sharing in the news, is that they use it as a desiccant. They use it to dry crops, so tomatoes and potatoes and certain things that have a really sticky resin within the plant matter. When they're trying to harvest it, they spray glyphosate right before harvest, even if it's organic. And that helps the plant matter dry up so they can harvest, the machines can harvest the fruit better, the potatoes, the tomatoes, whatever it might be, and not gum up the machine as easily if it's a green matter, right? So there's this chemical is inundated everywhere in our environment. It's really scary. And we could go on and on. I'm super passionate about this topic, But and I would like to share an article here in a little bit that we've shared from before that shows you some of the foods that are most prevalent with the highest amount of glyphosate in it. But before we go there, we have a couple guests that would like to share. So I see Boo, you have your hand up. I'll let you share. And then Blessa is also going to share her story around glyphosate and how she had glyphosate poisoning and was able to recover. So Boo, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And thank you, ladies, for all the research you do. It's just so eye-opening and informative and really helps us. I just love to bring to mind the toxins that came to dinner. The book that our formulator wrote. And if anyone's new or there's guests, this is, you can get it electronically, digitally, or you can buy it and share the information. But where he says the gut is the second brain, it says that many doctors agree the microbiome is vital to 70% of our immunity and digestion. And today, leading authorities and researchers believe there may be 20 conditions, health conditions, that may be tied to a compromised microbiome. And that's in here. And then also all the reports that show the rise in glyphosate and the rise in all these cancers and autism and different conditions. There's many, I don't know if it's going to pick it up. It's not going to pick it up because there we go. There's many charts in there, and they chart over the years the rise in glyphosate and the rise in all these health markers. And honestly, I feel that biomedic is one of these items in our core program that sets us apart from other companies, because other companies are all about the protein and the nutrients. But what about addressing the gut and getting the toxins out? So I love that we have this product, and I really feel that it sets us apart from many other companies that people try to compare us to. Thank you.
Thank you, Boo. You read our minds. That is at the end of our meeting, we're going to share about that book, and you're right on track. Yes, the charts in this book, you guys, it's just mind-blowing how you look at the increase in the use of glyphosate, and then everything, all these diseases are just skyrocketing. The charts are like identical. I mean, and then, you know, when I remember when I was in the doctor's office and they're like, well, we don't know what causes Crohn's disease and we don't have a cure for it. It might be hereditary, you know, but we just don't know. But here's some medication. And, you know, these people, they know. And it's just, we're here. That's why we're here, to raise awareness about, you know, the glyphosate that's in the food. And I think we have Carla that wants to share. Thank you so much, Boo. Carla, Nayeva, can you unmute Carla, please?
Hi, thank you so much for your information. I have been doing Purium for quite a while, and I resonate a lot with what you are saying. I live in an area where there's so much farming, and I just have a question. I'm fairly naive to some of the background, and so I really appreciate all the research. I'm just curious, for the farmers who have never farmed without using Roundup or those things to give them a bountiful harvest, I'm just curious, are there ideas that are known to, I guess, just help our farmers farm in a way that they could still be profitable, but that they could essentially stop using Roundup? I just imagine for them, it's like, how would I even compete? How would I have a livelihood? Does anyone know if
There's
there are farmers
actually,
out
yeah, there's
able to do that?
great information on the documents on Kiss the Ground and Common Ground about how farmers can go about switching from industrial farming to agricultural farming. So yeah, absolutely watch those documentaries. You'll get some great information in there. And you know, Go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, are you planting a garden yourself?
No, I'm not. I just know locally, the small town I was from, I know there were some farmers trying to move toward organic. It was just so difficult for them to be profitable. So I think I have a heart for the people trying to make the shift, because I imagine it's got to be such a challenge. So I was just curious how to learn a little bit more about
Yeah,
kind of from
there's
that
great
angle.
Yeah, there is great information in those documentaries, and they have a man that goes around and teaches farmers. And actually, when they switch over and start doing the agricultural farming, these farmers are actually making more money doing the regenerative way. Yeah.
That's so
So
encouraging. Oh,
yeah,
great.
yeah, watch it. It's really mind-blowing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing. And then next we have, who else was going to share?
I think it was Blessa.
Oh, yes, thank you.
Hi, sorry, I didn't have my hand up. Yeah, so I didn't really know too much about glyphosate. I have been vegetarian, vegan, eating organic for many, many years, and had was actually really conscious about my eating for a long time. But then about a year and a half ago, I got really, really sick. So I became allergic to peanuts in my 20s, alcohol in my 30s, and then wheat and gluten in my 40s. And it was just kind of this slow roll towards being completely intolerant of all foods. And that was exactly what happened. I just became intolerant. I couldn't eat anything. I had all of the most terrible digestive symptoms that, like ranging from heartburn, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, on and on and on. It was just like never fun to eat. And so then it just got to a point where I couldn't eat anymore. And I was juice fasting for a couple of weeks and going to doctors and getting all of the tests and things. And then Naiva reached out to me from a post that I had on Facebook and was like, "Are you ready to try superfoods?" And I was so desperate. I really was ready. And I got my first order. And as soon as I started putting the products into my body, I started to feel better. First of all, they were liquid. And at that time, I really couldn't eat solid foods. And I was so miserable not being able to do that. So as soon as I could get the super aminos into my body and get the power shake, it was like I was getting a full meal, which was amazing. A lot of time we talk about weight loss here, but I think that it's also important to talk about people who are underweight and who can't eat, and that these products are also really beneficial because most of them are liquids unless they're capsules. And so to be able to be hydrated and to be fed at the same time very quickly and just really feel that in my body, I instantly felt better. I thought maybe I had like parasites from the jungle or, kind of all different things that I was thinking I might have, but I just stopped all of the testing at the doctors. I stopped going to those appointments and just started getting the biomedic in my body. And what I realized was that I had glyphosate toxicity in my body. And the reason how I know that is because when I started taking biomedic and getting on the superfoods, I started to get better. And I've been better ever since. I've been continuously getting better. And now I can have some things in my diet, like, there are things that I can incorporate in my diet. Sometimes I have some wheat, sometimes I have some gluten. I will feel it, but I have this like functional, foundational baseline of my nutrition that I'm always coming back to. So even if those things sneak in, or let's say at Thanksgiving when I'm eating with people and I know that the food isn't organic, I'm taking a biomedic before I eat dinner. I'm taking one afterwards. I kind of just like up my superfoods a little bit to take care of myself in a deeper way. And I am so happy to say that I have not been sick like that. I love my food. I love my superfoods. I just made a huge order today that I'm so excited about. I can't wait till it gets here. Yeah, so thank you for allowing me to share.
Oh, that's such a wonderful share. And it's a great reminder. Yeah, some people that struggle to gain weight, there's so many people that out there that are malnourished just in general. And when glyphosate goes into the body and it's slowly deteriorating all the microvilli in your digestive system. You guys, if you laid out your digestive system, it is as big as a doubles tennis court. That's huge. It's massive. It does so many miraculous things. It's not just food in one end and out the other, as clean as you're eating. These things that are in our food are literally, depleting your microvilli and then creating these little cracks and tears, and that's the leaky gut that people are getting. And then your body literally can't even absorb. If you're eating healthy, you can't absorb the nutrients. Your body is just really struggling. So I'm so glad you shared that, because that's a great point. Some people think that we're like a weight loss company, and that's not the case. This is just great nutrition. And a lot of people have a hard time finding organic nutrition. They live in what we call a food desert. You know, my mom lives down at the beach and she doesn't have access to organic food, or very little, you know, and there's the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen list. So if you guys, you know, really you think you can't afford organic, get, you know, at least get your berries organic, because those are sprayed. You know, you can't wash glyphosate out of food. You can't cook it out of food. That's a big misconception that people have as well. So, you know, melons, they have a thicker shell. So those, you know, I don't always buy my melons organic, but I try to buy as much organic as possible. We just do the best we can with, you know, where we're living and what situations we're in. So thank you so much for that share. That's so true. And then Allison has our call to action today.
Before we go there,
Hey.
can I share this article, Unsafe on Any Plate, so that everybody can see this article that we've shared from before, and then we'll go into that. Allison, sorry to cut you off. So there's this article from the Detox Project, and that's where we got our certification on the biomedic. So the Detox Project actually did a 6-week trial that proved that 100 people across the board from all walks of life removed glyphosate by 74.5%. So some of these people ate organic, some people ate fast food every day, all different walks of life. And just by doing this one thing daily, adding in biomedic daily, 1 capsule in the morning, 1 capsule in the evening, they reduced it by 74.5% in 6 weeks. And then the trial was over. So if the trial would have went for 8 to 10 weeks or beyond, we may have had, you know, 100% reduction, but it was a 6-week trial with 100 different individuals. And this is the company, the Detox Project is who gave us that seal of approval, and they've done tests on lots of different foods. And so we're going to share this article with you as well today, so you can read it, you can share it, you can get passionate about what it is we're talking about today, because glyphosate is unsafe on any plate. There's alarming levels of Monsanto's glyphosate found in all popular American foods out there. Think our cereals, our snacks, our crackers, you know, chips, all of those things that are prevalent with corn, wheat, soy, and so many other, you know, oats especially as well. And so there's several parts to this article. I'm just going to scroll down a little ways to show you. There's a summary that shares about the effectiveness of what glyphosate does, why they started using it. They use it on 175 million acres in the United States. That's more than the 440 million acres around the globe as well. So just think all the different countries that are also being inundated by this chemical in their environment. And some of them are able to vote against it, but you know, many of these countries don't know better. And so you often hear that like people in Europe can eat bread that can't eat bread here. It's because in Europe, they've actually banned glyphosate. So here's a really interesting image of, you know, the glyphosate agricultural use back in 1992 versus 2014. And these dark spots is where there's especially a high amount of glyphosate sprayed on certain foods. And you see like the state of California, for instance, where lots of fruits and nuts and berries are grown. And there's a high amount of glyphosate along that whole area where all those fruits and berries and nuts are grown. So you can see that that's, you know, really alarming. And there's other parts of the country as well that has high amounts of glyphosate, places like Nebraska and Oklahoma and, you know, across Wisconsin and different places like that as you go further east. And so I'm going to scroll down here to where it says glyphosate food testing results. This is in parts per billion. So Cheerios is the highest parts per billion, like Tammy mentioned earlier. And so this is really alarming because like she said, it's most of our children's favorite foods or first foods when they're a baby. And so think Cheerios, Honey Nut Cheerios. The regular Cheerios is supposed to be heart healthy. They have a big heart on there. It says it's heart healthy. People think it's good for them, so they buy that one over other brands. And it has 1,125.3 parts per billion. That is more than the allowable safe, whatever safe means, level that we are supposed to eat on a daily basis or ever in our life. And so just by even having a bowl of cereal, we're already starting to cause issues within our body and our digestive system. And if we're doing that every single day, over years and years of time, it's probably caused some issues with our digestive system. So this is something really important. Then you go down the list, you know, there's Wheaties and Trix and even Annie's. We think Annie's is a good solution with the gluten-free. It's a gluten-free cereal. It's, you know, cookies and cacao vanilla. And we think like maybe that one's better. It has way less. It has 55.13 parts per billion, but it still has more than I think the allowable safe amount is like 10 parts per billion. So all of these on this list, it goes down the whole list of cereals, cornflakes, even Kashi, which I used to think was a good brand because it's organic. It's from Organic Promise. And this one even has 24.9 parts per billion in it. Special K, Frosted Flakes, Cheez-Its. Lots of kids love Cheez-Its as a snack. So it's really alarming that, you know, some of these most popular foods that our kids love are inundated with this chemical. And so you can go down the list and see, you know, all of our kids' favorite snacks, the Ritz, the Triscuit, the Oreos, all those things, even the Stacy's Pita Chips, which I used to think was a good brand, also still has a high amount of parts per billion of glyphosate. And then you get into all the chips and the chip brands, the Goldfish, the Lay's, the Doritos, the Fritos, again, really high in this chemical. And so as you go down the list, you'll be surprised that some of the things in here might be brands that you currently thought were good brands. And as you learn more about how much glyphosate is in them, you might start to pivot to different brands or different solutions, or maybe even making your own version at home that you know is safe and has good ingredients in it. And so I don't want to take up too much more time. I'll share this article with everybody here in the chat. It will also be found in our Million Mom Movement official group. So if you're not in there, then join there as well. And I'll pass it over to you, Allison, so that you can also close us out with our call to action and invite everybody to our next presentations.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Naiva. So we've got the link there in the chat for everyone to save. I'm going to be posting 2 other links as well to the toxin that came to dinner for anyone who missed, because our call to action today is to share this information with 10 people. Imagine, you know, 10 people who don't know, like you didn't know about this before, and how grateful they will be to know this information and to have solutions and to have this awareness. So, you know, let's go live about it for what you learned. Share the article that Naiva just posted here to back it up. You know, you can do a curiosity post on your socials. You can just do a live right now after this call and share what you've learned here. And so, you know, we're going to share the book. I'm going to share the link because that is another great resource that we can share. Let me just get it up 1 second because I'm on my phone trying to, here we go. I think hang on, let me just get that up. And yeah, you posted the links? Oh, okay, great. Okay, you got the audiobook up there. Okay, thank you so much, Naiva. Yeah, so have a look. If you haven't read that book, that is an amazing resource. Go ahead and also please save the article that Naiva showed. And we have our next, okay, so for let's all stay connected here. We have the Million Mom Facebook group. You can follow us there on Instagram and tag us. If you go live today talking about the subject, please tag, we can repost you. And we also have our YouTube for all the replays that are up as well. They're up in our Facebook group. So stay connected, invite people to this call, invite people to learn more, share this information from your heart, and experiment yourself with, you know, if you haven't done biomedic and gotten on the ULT, that is absolutely the first place to start. And then, yeah, we are here together next week. Naiva, what's our call next week? Sorry, I don't have easy access to the boards.
Empowering families. So I'm going to post it right here. March 8th is all about empowering families, creating foundation for healthy living. And so as a council, we're going to be sharing what works well for us and our families. And so Allison, if you want to add anything onto that, that's the subject for next Friday.
Yes, this is a family affair. Absolutely. Getting healthy. This is all together, you know, and you want to invite your family on to next week's call because we're going to be hearing from a lot of families who are doing this all together like ourselves. And so, yeah, so please come next week. We'll see you and invite your friends and family to join. Thank you so much, everyone. Sorry, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Allison. Such a great call, ladies. Yeah, we have to lead by example. And I'm telling you what, guys, when your kids see you start lighting up and zooming around and running circles around them, and they're just like, what is mom doing? What's mom? What's going on? You know, when they see you so happy and, you know, never like being a couch potato, and they're just like, okay, maybe, you know, you just have to kind of drip it into them. It's a slow and steady process sometimes for some families, depending on how heavy you are on the standard American diet and, you know, where you're coming from. So, you know, just be patient. Slow and steady wins the race, little by little, one recipe at a time, one day at a time, one family at a time, one power shake at a time, one biomedic at a time. It's very possible. So just don't ever give up. You know, if you don't ever give up, you're going to get there. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here today. Amazing call.